Most places are forgotten. You pass through them, leave them behind, and eventually they disappear from memory. But some places refuse to leave. A road you traveled once, a forest you entered for only a few minutes, an abandoned building glimpsed through a fence years later. You still remember them, not because something happened there, because something almost happened, as though the location itself was holding its breath, waiting. Welcome to Mysterious Encounters. Tonight, we open another entry from the Veil Archives. Throughout this archive series, we have explored strange people, strange symbols, strange patterns, but now we turn our attention to something even quieter, the places themselves. Because throughout history, certain locations have inspired the same reaction, not fear, not curiosity, something more difficult to describe, a feeling, a sensation that a place contains more than its physical appearance. Tonight, we investigate the places that wait. Sometimes it happens immediately. You arrive somewhere new, a road, a clearing, an empty structure, and before you notice any details, a feeling appears, a strange certainty that this place matters, not because you recognize it, not because it is beautiful, not because it is dangerous, simply because it feels significant. The sensation arrives before explanation, before observation, before thought, as though some deeper part of perception has already reached a conclusion that the conscious mind cannot yet understand. And perhaps that is why these places remain memorable, because they affect us before we know why. Ask people about the most important locations in their lives, and many will mention familiar answers: a childhood home, a school, a workplace, but occasionally another place emerges, a place with no obvious significance, a forgotten road, a hill overlooking nothing, a forest path, a small building, a stretch of empty land. No major event occurred there, no life-changing experience, and yet the location remains vivid. Sometimes for decades, as though memory preserved it, for reasons it never explained. The mystery is not what happened there. The mystery is why the place remained when so many others disappeared. Many of these locations share something in common. They exist between worlds, roads, bridges, tunnels, forest trails, shorelines, doorways, ancient ruins, places of transition, places where one thing becomes another. Human beings have always treated these spaces differently. Ancient stories often place encounters at crossroads, revelations beside rivers, transformations inside forests, not because these locations are magical, but because they represent movement, change, passage. A threshold is never simply a place. It is a moment made physical, a boundary between what was and what comes next. Perhaps some locations become important for reasons unrelated to geography. Perhaps they become symbolic. A place may begin as ordinary, then absorb meaning. A conversation, a realization, a loss, a discovery. Over time, the physical location becomes inseparable from the emotional landscape attached to it. The place transforms, not externally, internally. A map of significance begins forming beneath the visible world. One road becomes a memory. One doorway becomes a turning point. One abandoned structure becomes a question that never fully leaves, and eventually, the place becomes larger than itself. There is another sensation, reported by those who encounter unusual locations, a difficult feeling to describe, the feeling that they are not merely observing the place is observing them, not literally, not consciously, yet the sensation persists, as though attention itself has become directional, as though the environment possesses a subtle presence. This may explain why certain locations feel alive, despite containing nothing unusual, because life is not always the correct word. Presence is, and some places seem to possess it in abundance. Perhaps places are more than coordinates, more than roads and buildings, more than forests and stone. Perhaps some locations function as containers, holding memory, holding symbolism, holding questions, waiting quietly for someone capable of noticing them, not because the place demands attention, but because attention completes the experience. A location remains silent, a traveler arrives, and for a brief moment, something hidden becomes visible, not in the landscape, in the observer. Some places are not important because of what happened there. Some places become important because of what they awaken, a memory, a feeling, a realization, a question that remains unanswered, and once a place reveals that feeling, it is never entirely left behind. The road ends, the forest fades, the building disappears from sight, but somewhere inside you, the place continues waiting. A conversation repeats itself, a memory changes, an object disappears, then returns where it should not be. A moment feels duplicated. A sequence unfolds twice. Most people dismiss these events, forget them, move on, but some experiences leave behind an unsettling question. What if reality occasionally slips? What if the world is not as stable as it appears? And in the next entry of the Veil Archives, we investigate the moments when ordinary life seems to break its own rules, not illusion, not imagination, but anomalies hidden inside the everyday. The next Veil Archives entry, The Glitched World, Reality Anomalies. Sometimes the strangest thing about reality is how confidently it pretends to be stable.